Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show with me, Andrew Eborn. Delighted to be joined yet again by the wonderful Errol Musk, who may or may not live to a 250. That's what we looked at last time. So you've been talking last time about these longevity clinics and things like that. How long have they been going? And you talked about them needing to start at the age of 14 to get people's genomes and stuff like that. How long have these clinics been going on for?
How long have they existed?
Yeah.
How long have they been? Well, I think it's all become quite a new thing. I don't think there was talk of it, 10 years ago. I'm not sure when the Craig Venter, this founder of this company that I was with, I thought I was being very clever, saying, I know that Craig Venter, and then all of a sudden he said, "Oh, he's our founder. Here he is." but yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it was that long ago that he actually mapped the genome, the first human complete map of the genome. And yeah, so it's a relatively new thing. And the impression I gain is that it won't be long before insurance companies and such like get involved, and say that, in the past, for example, if you applied for life insurance or
Yeah.
something to that effect, you were and also if you had certain job applications and so forth, you had to go and get a medical checkup, was generally pretty basic. I mean, you could basically fool your way through that, through the average medical checkup, if you know what I mean. Do you smoke? No. Okay, doesn't smoke. Do you drink? No. He doesn't drink. And then they get a hell of a good report. Meantime, the guy smokes 2 packs a day, and he drinks a bottle of whiskey every day.
Right.
But now, the insurance companies and such like, I imagine, it's just, and we did talk about it, but we'll be saying, let's get your longevity done, and before we appoint you to this position, and see
Right.
what you're predisposed to. And it works because obviously there's a large investment sometimes in employing a certain person, and then you don't want to, you know uh, you can't play with lives too much, but you don't want that person to sort of drop dead from something in 2 years, 2 or 3 years, or 4 years down the line, when you've invested in having him go to all sorts of courses and
Right.
training and all sorts of things.
Well, it,
And
it does
so
certainly make sense. I mean,
it's
that's
it's
the great
it's all
thing
going to
about
tie
AI, and
up.
I speak about it around the world, as you know. I want to put the AI into Britain, and we've got seismic advances in medicine as a result of this, and sharing data. I mean, that's the other big thing where you can prevent diseases if you get the best minds in the world sharing that data. Obviously, anonymize it as appropriate. But it does raise those economic questions, though. As I say, if you live to 250, you've got to keep on working for a bit longer than the current retirement ages.
Well, it comes back to the age-old thing. What does a man of 80 want most? And that's to be 81.
Yes. Okay.
So I mean, it's very difficult. But what is interesting to me from a sort of layman's point of view, I mean, just an average looking at it sort of as much as I can academically, before the First World War, the average age that a European woman lived to was 39. So the average lifespan of a European woman prior to 1914 was 39. You can go
Amazing.
and check that.
Yeah.
Now it's something like 87,
Right.
which is like more than twice as much, you know. So obviously things have changed.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the ancient texts, they do talk about lifespans which are much longer than what we, and of course the Bible, had all these people who lived to
A
ages
thousand.
of
Yes.
hundreds of years, at any rate.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, it does. It does. It is an interesting topic by any measure. And I listened to Elon talk. And he's 54 this year,
Yes.
and you know the way he talks he talks like somebody you'd expect of some sort of kind of weird 2001 Space Odyssey kind of way or something. I don't know. That he's only got so many years. I'm doing this like a darts player now. He's only got so many years in which he's got to do X amount.
Right.
And he works in terms of the, three score and 10. So I'm 70 and I've got 16 years in which to do all these things. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do it. And so then he goes into a panic.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'll be 78 or 74 before we even get to a point that I wanted to be 5 years ago. So people do, oddly enough, it's mechanical. It sounds a bit mechanical and somewhat without somewhat lacking in sensitivity to talk about. I've only got so many years left.
I get it. So that will be the temptation, as you said earlier, with a wonderful joke about what an 80-year-old wants is to be 81. Have you discussed this with Elon, and what are his views?
Well, I don't have to discuss it because we've discussed it at length, and he's discussed it at length. That he's very concerned, and I'm sure he's not the only one. That he needs like 140 years, and he's got 16. It's like a bloke who wants to go and buy a motor car, and the car is £1 million, and he's got 140,000, and he's wondering whether they'll give him payments or I don't know. I'm just rambling here, but it's very difficult. It's a bit soul destroying, thinking that I'm finally getting somewhere. And my time is up, and so yes, I think the Longevity Institute thing is going to attract a lot of attention to people. And then, of course, you've got the people who are sort of what do you call them, the super rich or the rich entitled, or whatever you want to call it, entitled rich or something like that, who've got everything. Imagine, I mean, I'm the, your king there, and he thinks, Jesus, I'm the king, Hell, I can just say, hey, you bend over, and the bloke bends over, you jump off that bridge, Then you think, oh my God, I've only got 4 years to do all this, and I've got so many people I want to do this to. And, I'm just joking there about, but the point is that if you now are one of the entitled rich, and you've got all these things, and you realize, oh my God, they're going to take it away from me. I spent all those years suffering, and now I've made it, and I've got my deal, and I got my money and everything, and now I'm about to freaking die.
Yeah. Well, no, I get it. The appeal of living longer. This is what people always say, and this is why some people used to freeze themselves. I think there's some people already frozen just in case they can discover the cure for whatever disease took them in the first place. Would you do that?
Well, exactly. There have been people who've done this cryogenic stuff, and I think Walt Disney was one or something.
Yes, Disney on Ice.
Something. Something like that. I don't know, maybe I made that up, but I think that's what I heard. But people are, life, of course, is very strange. There are the days in which I wish I can live forever, and the next day, oh man, I wish I could die. So it's part of the human experience.
And it's a big debate at the moment because they're talking about assisted dying and so on and so forth, and whether there should be a bill and the pros and cons of that. What are your views on assisted dying?
Oh, no, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I haven't been there, so I can't talk. So I don't agree with it. I mean, I would never do that. I would say, listen, I don't care how bad you feel. We like you with us. I don't care. I'm not going to do this. It's. I mean, just without sounding crass. I mean, just take a dog for example. Why didn't we put him down? He's not enjoying life anymore. And he looks up at you and he says, hey, well, wait a minute. I hope you guys aren't talking about me. The dog, I mean.
And that's the problem, because people also turn around and say, look, they feel the pressure. They don't want to be a burden on their family, and maybe that's the cheaper way out. And that's the concern.
But they say that, it's just like, in the hope that the family would say, "Oh, no, no, you're not a burden at all," you know. So it's a sort of thing you might say, you know, to sort of improve your circumstances or make people feel, you know, I would be quite happy to go, you know, not be a burden on you. And then you hope they'd say, "Oh, no, no,
Yeah. As long as they do say that and don't say thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, so you know, it's a very active topic about people. You know, one of the things we know is that there's no guarantees about anything. There's no, you know, nothing's guaranteed. So you know, one, you know, like the sort of the happy chappies, they tell you be happy for every day, you know, and all that sort of stuff, you know. Until they catch you on a bad day and you say, well, do you mind if I'm not happy about today?
Yeah.
But,
and do you believe in an afterlife?
Well, I would like to. I don't know enough about that. What I do know is that we don't know anything. We haven't got a clue. So we've got eyes that can't see as well as your old dog can see better than you can. You can hear better than you can. You can smell better than you can. So we've got somewhat limited senses, and that's what we go about with. And so I would say, you know, we don't know. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I mean, there's so much belief in it, you know, and people who say I died and came back, you know, and then you rush to put that thing on, and you hear this guy's story, and you think, well, it doesn't quite add up what he's saying, but you know, I have to laugh here, you know, and think of a Far Side cartoon, and this Far Side cartoon shows these doctors around a patient, and they're shining a torch into the patient's face. Yes. in the somewhat darkened operating room, you see, and then the next sort of cut is the patient's on the bed and saying to the people around him, I saw this light. I saw this light. You know, and now it came closer and closer and closer, and then I came back to life.
There you go. That's very good. And I mean, you obviously you brought up the children. Did you bring them up in the church? Do they believe in the afterlife?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. No. All my children are very religious. Very religious. I'm very grateful for that. And you know, you only have to see with small children, my experience, yeah, with small children, how easily they believe in God and not so much an afterlife, but they believe in Jesus and God. And you know, I mentioned across all the religions, it's so easy with children. You don't have to explain anything to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. They get it right away, which brings me back to the Christian teachings, where Jesus is purported to have said, unless you like a little child, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You know, and my experience with little children is I've actually seen my own little children say to one another when one is doing something that has been told not to do, that in Dutch, lieve Jesus, kyk vir jou. You know, the Lord Jesus is looking at you, you know, when you do that. And they're little tots. And then they quickly, oh yeah, sorry, you know, I won't do that again. Because they believe so easily. Yeah. And that's rather interesting. It's as people go older, is when they become jaded and don't, you know, want to, they have all these nitpicking and, oh yes, but, you know. So I don't know. I would say, who knows? But I wouldn't take any chances. And I'm always reminded of Elon's saying that there are no atheists at exam time.
Right, yes. No, that's absolutely right. And you make a very good point as well about children and seeing things through the eyes of children. It brings a new joy, doesn't it, to
Oh yes, oh
experiences.
yes,
So having
oh
X
yes.
going along for the ride, if you like, with Elon those first 100 days with Trump. I mean, one of the stories we spoke about previously, and Grimes is very keen for him not to be in the public eye. But you spoke previously about she suggested having a tattoo on X's. What was the truth about
Yes,
that?
well, that was yes. I don't want to cause family eruptions or anything, but yes, yeah, that was the sort of arty world, the arty world. Things like that. It's the kind of thing that in my world, a tattoo sort of automatically it was drummed into me by my father. I suppose that if you have a tattoo, you're immediately lower deck, if you know what I mean. Using the old expression.
Yes.
People with tattoos they wind up on the lower deck, whatever that meant. Sea or something.
Yeah.
You're ruining yourself, And I am inclined to be surprised when a very attractive girl puts a tattoo on herself. I don't really go for that. I don't like it. Something inherent. I don't like it. I say okay, fine, but it's not what it's not something I would. I don't know why. I think it's mutilation of the.
Oh, absolutely. I know, and there are certain religions that don't allow that. Do any of your family members have tattoos?
No, not a soul in my tattoo. My entire family has a tattoo. But as a kid, Elon, you must listen to this. So we abhorred smoking.
Right.
It was like the hell. It was the worst. And of course, you may recall when Elon was smaller, younger, in those days, when you flew in an aircraft, they had like one row smoking, and the next row is not smoking, and the next row is non-smoking. I mean, this was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was awful to be on a plane. And not only that, if you went to the cinema, you could barely see the screen if you sat at the back, with all these streams going up. And it was awful. And you desperately try to get a place where they don't smoke or there's no smoking allowed, and restaurants, for example. Now it's all been done away with today. I mean, most of the world today, it's not allowed. And on planes, it's totally not allowed. But Elon was about, I don't know how old he was, maybe 15, I suppose, more like 15 than less, when this bloke was causing grief with his cigarette smoking. I don't know where we were exactly. I can't remember. Maybe on a bus or something. And Elon said to him, "Don't you know that the body is the temple of God?" Your body is the temple of God. What are you doing? Which I thought was, I remember it sort of shook this character as well.
Right.
Don't defile your body. It's a temple. And I thought that was rather deep.
Oh no,
no,
definitely did. But he must have got that from somewhere. Were those your teachings, or did he go to Sunday school?
Oh no, May was a Sunday school teacher.
Right.
So he went to Sunday school. And oh yes, no, they all went to Sunday school and everything, pretty normal, average. We're not, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and we don't blaspheme and we don't take the Lord's name in vain, and we don't do any of the, we sort of take it seriously,
Yeah.
And we actually do believe
very, very strong views. I mean, strong views on tattoos and so on and so forth. So to clarify that, because Grimes said it might have been misinterpreted. Do you remember the occasion when it was actually suggested that X have a tattoo?
No, it's such a long time ago. It's not that long ago. I suppose 4 or 5 years ago. But
well, he's only a youngster.
It was something that made Elon to run and jump.
Right.
Say, hey, you can't do that. You know what I mean? We're not having that. Yes, but his hair will grow over it. No way. No. No tattoo on the top of my child's head. No thanks.
So that's what. So Elon told you that was the conversation they'd had.
No, I heard about it. I heard about it. Heard like first and second hand. I didn't. Being the sort of grandfather or the father, I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. So if I say it's good, then I'm wrong, and if I say it's bad, then what's it got to do with you and all that sort of stuff. So you tend to play your cards to try and come out of it without being the one who's responsible for everything in the end.
Oh no, I think there will be universal condemnation if you put a tattoo on a toddler.
Well, yes, I mean, I mean, it's who does that? I mean, that's crazy, But then you've got your art world, and the art world is different. They see things differently. They're the ones who, in fact, design things, and make things look nice. I mean, I've always admired your suit, for example. I mean, if I look at that suit, and if I'd worn that years ago, they'd have thought, well, what are you, a bookie or something? I don't know. I'm trying to think, where do you come from? Are you the racetrack man or something? I mean, it just looks too smooth. You know what I mean? And you should have a hat and it's just too smooth. But as time goes by, this artistic styling becomes more acceptable, And we'll take miniskirts, for example. I was alive when miniskirts first came in. Right. In 1969 or something, 68. I mean, everybody was horrified, absolutely horrified by a miniskirt. And they weren't even short miniskirts. They were just above the knee. And there were signs in places saying that no woman is allowed to enter with a dress that is above the knee, And it was considered terrible. And look there, and then one day you go and take your own girlfriend or lady out, and she's got a miniskirt on, and you say, I'm not going, we're not going, I can't do this, I can't do this, we're not allowing this. I can't allow it, I'm not putting up with it, I can't have that. And so it's the arty people who slowly, let's give them credit, they slowly change one's mind, and you move on, and you see these things that aren't that bad. I'd still draw the line at tattoos on people's faces,
Yeah. Oh no, I think I'm totally with you on that, and I'd say that the vast majority of people would be as well. And I think it's one of those things that gets all the headlines. As I say, Grimes apparently denies ever having that conversation, but as you say, there was some sort of reaction from Elon. So there was maybe a discussion whether it's in jokes or otherwise. But clearly, I think we would all condemn it if anybody tried to tattoo a toddler.
I don't know. All I know is that there is a sort of war between people who, not a war, but there's a sort of ongoing controversy between people who think it's okay and other people who don't, I would not like my little 7 or 8-year-old son to have a tattoo down his arm. I just would not like it at all. I would find it horrifying, to be honest with you. I would, and then I have a very, very good friend in London who's a very famous man, actually, in London. And he's now short of 50, and a little short of 50, and he's having tattoos put on his arms as a young man. And he's having them slowly removed by a very, very, sort of gruesome process, it seems to me anyway.
Well, it's more painful having them removed, apparently, than it is having them on.
Having them removed.
Yeah.
Yes, he's having them removed. And you can actually see where he's reached, his sleeves now cover tattoos, but then just beneath that, he's got good, clear skin. And then he can lift it up, and you can see, I'm up to here now. Right. I have to, this is the next piece that's coming out. And, and you realize, the guy was not well advised as a young man, and so.
And it's good to listen to people who regret having the tattoos on, because if it's a fashion thing, you want to be able to change it when and removing a tattoo is very painful and very expensive.
Yes, obviously. I don't know how they do it, quite honestly, but I would, I know that Angelina Jolie, not that I'm a great follower of these sort of things, but I did read that she married this bloke, Bob Thornton.
Yes, and had a vial of blood around her neck, yes.
And she had to have that removed, because after that she married somebody else. You know, I mean, the way it normally is, you know, I love Sue, cancelled. I love Jenny, cancelled. I love, I mean, you know, but, well, you know, people never cease to surprise. And then you've got the Maoris who make it look quite nice in a way, you know.
Yeah.
So it's difficult.
I
It's
think that's right.
difficult.
I mean, people do regret it. And speaking of regret, I mean, it's the reports we discussed this previously. There are reports that Elon basically has had a 113 billion net worth drop, which has been linked to Trump's tariffs and so on and so forth, and hit Tesla hard. Do
Yeah.
you think Elon regrets getting involved in the political side?
No, no, no. There is no real drop. That's just media hype. You know, that's nonsense. Tesla price at the moment is sitting at about 60% more than it was a year ago. That's pretty weird. It's very high. In fact, you know, if you ran a normal business in years gone by that showed such extraordinary growth, there were probably government watchdogs in days gone by who would draw attention, you know, from the receiver of revenue or somebody. What are these people doing? You know, how come they, you know, everybody else in that industry is showing a, you know, 15, 16%, 12% improvement on their share price annually, but you're showing 60%?
Yeah.
Well, what's going on here? You know, so it's a too high, because if it was like that year upon year, then within 10 years, and it's compounding, your share price is going to be some astronomical figure, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like when you go and you put your money in, and they tell you, oh, if you put your money in this place, you get 40% interest, and those places are always shysters.
Yeah.
You know, you know very well that money can't grow at more than, even at 15%. It's been a very well planned success story. If you know, BEO or whatever, board executives or something like that, have got you this 15% on your money over the year, you know, it's almost magic.
Yeah.
But when they come back and say, well, no, I'm getting 45% on my money, or you know, more, or something like that, you know, inevitably it's just down the road that the whole thing crumbles, and you hear that it was a scam, you know, at work, you know. So
having a look
if
at, I mean,
Tesla were
you
to
made
double its
that point
price every
beforehand.
year,
The Tesla share price, if you look at it over a number of years, it's risen significantly. And I think on that sort of basis. So do you think Elon has any regrets about those 100 days then?
no, not at all. He got a lot of flack. I mean, you know, look, he has a huge company. It's not as though he pulls all the strings in the companies. I mean, he's got these very, very competent CEOs and so on. And so it's not as though he has to pull strings everywhere, as though he's the sort of conductor of a gigantic 1,000-piece orchestra. And no, but where people feel, if Tesla shows a slight drop or something, and they notice he's not there, you know, then they've got something to say. Oh, well, it's because he wasn't there, you know.
Right.
And so yeah, you know, and then you get these people calling for him to actually resign. I mean, first of all, the share price goes down terribly, let's say, in whatever it is, let's say Tesla, or goes down, and then they say, oh, it's going down, he must go. Well, if he goes, and then Tesla, the price goes down to zero, then I think they'll be very unhappy. You know what I mean? So no, it's 6 of one and a half dozen of the other, and it doesn't matter. It's the same old thing, you know. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So, you know, if he had not done DOGE, and then you know, and Tesla had still gone down or something, they'd find some reverse argument to say that Tesla went down because he didn't do DOGE.
Right. Yeah.
You know, or something like that. No. He fitted DOGE in quite well, and the team is still there, and it's not over. It's just that his tenure is over.
Right.
as a special contractor, he's limited to 4 months of operation. So he can't be there more than 4. That's the rule. To try and curtail unnecessary government spending, And so I'm not even sure if he got a salary, but I'm sure he didn't take one. But his tenure is over, and so he's gone. He must now leave it now, and now we see the effects. He's done his sort of consulting duties, and they know what they have to do now, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, looking at something else, you've recently launched the MUSK'S meme coin to fund a science institute in Dubai, and Elon reportedly called you to ask about it. What was his reaction to your project, and how do you see your ventures aligning with or differing from his?
The meme thing, the coin thing, became very popular last year, and people said, let's launch this meme. And I said, well, it sounds like a good idea. The idea behind it was that I was told that, all people working from London, in fact, that we would actually be able to raise funds for this, an institute of science study group, that we thought of. And the meme might be able to help us with that. And all right, I don't know. I mean, I was given various arguments that no, it was actually a scam that was pulled on me and everything, but no, I don't think so. The people involved very decent, and nobody really made any great anything much out of it. My own argument was that our particular meme coin was a set of pretty pictures,
right?
And my argument was, instead of having a set of pretty pictures that you collect, like a child, why don't we rather have each new meme that comes out have a message? So that every week or every day or every week, a new meme comes out, and it has a message. Some sort of great George Bernard Shaw sort of saying or something like that, and everybody tries to collect those and find out what the new latest meme says, or what the latest lesson was. They even said, they said, yes, we could have it as Papa Musk says. That's me. Papa Musk says, honor your father and mother, or something like that.
Yes.
This week,
Yes.
And
only this week.
And I thought that would be much better, because it's at least looking forward to something new.
Sure.
Whereas a collection of pictures, I was told no, they're going to go with pictures, and they were rather nice. They were very arty, and whether it goes anywhere, I don't know. I'm not involved with it. I've no.
What did Elon think of it?
Well, they liked the pictures. Obviously, they were very well presented in all the pictures. It was very good publicity for them to look good and everything. And they were all in many of the pictures, and cartoon-like, And
well, no, you sent me some. I saw
no objection to it. I mean, when somebody's going around drawing pictures of you, Andrew, as being a wonderful person,
yes.
Well, you'd have to be a real bad or a real stick in the mud to go and tear them all down. I mean, you wouldn't do that. You'd sort of try and keep a low profile, but you'd probably have a smile on your face.
So he liked the pictures. Did he like the business venture?
Well, I never actually said to him, but I did ask the other kids, and they all said they liked them, but we can't be associated with it.
Right.
We're like pushing this thing. So
yes.
So we just stayed clear of it.
Yeah. No, I understand that, which is very yeah. And now obviously Elon's his time at DOGE is finishing. His time with Trump it's changing, let me put it that way. What's he going to do next?
Well, he's got a lot of things to get back on, program. As I've said, the rocket, as he actually gave a speech somewhere a week ago in which he said something that I've said a few times, and that is that he would have liked to have been where he is now about 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And he actually said this last week at some function. He said, I would like to have been where I am now with the spaceship, with the Starship, maybe 5 or 6 years or 7 years ago. And Yeah, so it's difficult, and the difficulties of getting to Mars.
Right.
Earth orbit is one thing, low Earth orbit is one thing, but the difficulty of getting to Mars, putting people in a pod, tell them you're never going to come back. They're going to take 18 months and they're going to sit in a pod together. I mean, this is, or whatever period it is, when the two planets are very close together, which I think is in 1932, 2032 or something. It's not really feasible. It's a bit like going to Columbus's time and saying, Columbus walking around on the dock in Sagres, Portugal, I imagine, and saying, "Look, I want to head off, that way, into the west. I'm looking for people to join me, and but and everybody, well, but you're going to fall off the edge, you're going to fall off the edge of the world there." And there were people who are scholars at the time who had concluded that the world was round,
Yes.
but because of the church being what it was, you didn't go around broadcasting those things. I mean, this was 1492.
Yeah.
In 1541 or something, Copernicus waited until he was told that he's really on his last few days before he published his book, that the Earth goes around the sun.
Right.
Because he knew that they'd burn him at the stake otherwise. And as you know, Galileo immediately took this up and said, yes, Copernicus is right, the Earth goes around the sun, upon which immediately Galileo was sentenced to death by the church. Oh, yes. And because he was such a popular man, it was commuted to house arrest for life until he died. He was never allowed out of his house for the rest of his life because he said the Earth goes around the sun, or he agreed with Copernicus. Now, so it's all very well being smart, Alec, and saying yes, but people around, that's 50 years before that Columbus set off, before Copernicus and Galileo's problems, and there were probably people who were quietly sure the Earth is round. But the man on the wharf, the average fishermen and boaters and stuff, they didn't have that sort of insight. And so when Columbus said, look, I want to head off in this little boat that you see here, and we're going to go that way. And can you imagine that, I'm equating this to going to Mars in a little capsule.
Yeah.
And the people saying, but won't we fall off? Yes. No. But Columbus saying, I've heard that you don't fall off. You wind up in India.
Right.
And how does that work? India's that way.
Yes.
Yes, but if you go this way, you come around. And can you imagine the people of those days were saying, I don't know, it doesn't sound. I think you got it wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to fall off, man. You're going to fall off.
Yeah.
You see? And so the blokes who did get into the boat with Columbus must have been either seriously drunk or seriously something, because by the time they came to, they were well offshore and they couldn't go back. And he was saying, we're going to keep going this way. And can you imagine? I mean, I've done ocean crossings in yachts. It's scary enough even today. And with all the things you have, GPS and everything. But to have done it in those days,
it was phenomenal. And as you say, we've got this revolution now, the seismic advances in that sort of stuff, with more and more people traveling. I've got a very quick word then. What did you make of Katy Perry going up into space for, less than 11 minutes?
Well, I think good luck to her. I think great. I mean, she's just a girl. I mean,
yeah.
I imagine it's quite a frightening experience.
It was fantastic. Well, space travel, that's certainly a thing in the future. But
it's a good example of what you say, Katy Perry. If you do it, you're damned. If you don't do it, you're damned.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I look out for the single. I'm sure it's going to do very well. Errol, it's been a real pleasure having you as always. Thank you very much for joining me.
Okay, Andrew. Thank you.
Bye-bye.